The Chitrik Academy is dedicated in loving memory of Rabbi Tzvi Hirsh Chitrik.
Welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going to learn a new piece of Gemara that starts from V'chatichos shel basar. This is after the two dots, V'chatichos shel basar, until Amar Mar. In our Mishnah we had said that if someone finds Chatichos shel basar, pieces of meat in a public area, the halacha is he may keep it. Today we are going to analyze this case. Let's see the Gemara. V'chatichos shel basar, and pieces of meat. The Gemara is going to ask a question. Let's put a question mark. Amai, why is the finder allowed to keep the meat that he finds on the floor? Lehevi mishkala simin. Seemingly the owner can come and tell the finder that the meat that I lost is a certain weight, and then he should be able to keep it. That should be a good sign to prove that it belongs to him. Why do we say that the finder gets to keep it and he doesn't need to try to find the owner? That's the Gemara's question. Now the Gemara is going to answer. Let's put an A on the side to show that the answer is on the same line. B'mishkala d'shavin. It's referring to in a case where everyone in the town would sell an equal weight of meat to all the customers. Everyone would have the same weight, and therefore saying how much it weighed, how much the meat weighed, would not be a good siman because that was the average weight of meat that everyone in the town used to buy. So now the Gemara is going to ask another question. Let's put a question mark on this side over here to show that it starts closer here. The Gemara asks, "V'seheve chaticha." Let the piece gufa itself siman. Let the piece itself be a siman. Oy de dafka. Let's see. Let the owner say either the piece of meat came from the neck, oy de atma, or it came from the thigh. So let this be a siman. What the Gemara is saying is that the weight may not be a good siman, but let a person advertise, I lost a piece of meat. And when someone says, yes, I found a piece of meat, let him ask, what part of the cow was it from? Was it from the neck? Was it from the thigh? Let him identify what type of piece of meat it was. Why does the Mishnah say that the finder may keep it? Let the owner come and say what piece of meat from where in the cow it's from, and let that be a good siman that the meat belongs to him. So that is the Gemara's question. And now the Gemara is going to actually bring a proof from a brisa that this would be a good siman if a person can prove from what part of the animal it's from, his meat was. Miloi Tanya, have we not learned in a brisa? Matza chatichos dagim, if a person found pieces of fish, v'dag nashach, or a fish which had a bite mark, which was bitten, chayav lahachriz. The person who finds it must announce, must try to return to the owner. So we see from the brisa that a person can't say, if it was a dag nashach, different types of fish, he's allowed to identify, and the finder has to try to return it to the owner. And the brisa continues, chaviyas shel yayin, barrels of wine, v'shel shemen, or of oil, v'shel tvua, or of grain, v'shel gregres, or of dried figs, v'shel zeisim, or of olives, hare eilu shalai. These he gets to keep. However, in the beginning, pieces of fish, a person does need to return because it could be identified what part of the fish it was, and therefore he needs to return it. So seemingly this is a proof that by meat as well, the finder must try to return it, because the owner can't say what part of the animal it was, and it will be returned to him. And that would be a good siman. So why does our Mishnah say that any time a person finds a piece of meat, he gets to keep it? That is the Gemara's question. So the brisa is from Matzah Chatiches, from over here, but the actual proof is only from the first part, that pieces of fish need to be returned, chayav lahachriz. Because in this part, it shows that pieces of fish need to be returned Probably because the owner can identify what part of the fish the meat is from. And this is the Gemara's question. Now we're going to have the Gemara's answer. The Gemara answers, Hacha b'mayaskinan. When the Brisa said that fish, any pieces of fish need to be returned, it didn't mean any type of fish needs to be returned. Rather, b'di'ika simana bepaska. It's only when it has in the cut, it has a specific siman that the owner can identify. Regular pieces, just saying where it's from, which part of the animal the fish is from, or what part of the fish the meat is from, is not a good siman. Rather, if it is a special type of cut in the fish, then the finder needs to return it. Now, Gemara is going to bring an example. Gihad Rabba bar Rav Huna, like Rabba bar Rav Huna, so he would when he would cut his meat, he would cut it atlasa karnasa. He would cut his meat into a triangle. Tlasa means 3, karnasa means corners. So when he would cut his meat, he would cut his meat in a triangle. And in such a case, the Brisa tells us that if a person finds pieces of fish, the meat of fish, then if it has a unique cut, then it needs to be returned. However, regular fish that's found does not need to be returned, even if the owner can identify from where it came from. And now the Gemara is going to say that we can also see this in the Brisa. Daikanami, we can also see that this is what the Brisa meant. Diktani dumya de dagnashuch, because it says matza chatiches shadagim. If a person found pieces of fish, and then it continues v'dagnashuch, a unique type of fish, a fish which has a bite mark in it, then it needs to be returned. However, regular fish does not need to be returned. We'll explain this in a minute. Gemara says, Shema Mina, here's a good proof, a good raya, that just saying what part of the animal the meat is from is not a good proof. Now let's see this on our board. So we have the different parts. So the Gemara's question was, in a case of that a person finds meat, he should need to try to return it because the owner can identify what part of the animal it's from, and that should be a good siman. So the Gemara tried to bring a proof from a Brisa about fish. That the Brisa said, if someone finds chatiches dagim, or let's just write this down, chatiches dagim, or a person found dag nashuch. In these cases, the Brisa says the person needs to return it. So seemingly, let's just make an arrow, a check, so we can see that this is what Brisa says it needs to be returned. So seemingly, chatichas dagim, regular pieces of fish, need to be returned because the owner can identify from what part of the fish it's from. So this would be a proof that in meat as well, the owner the finders need to return it because the owner can identify from where on the animal it's from. That was the Gemara's question. The Gemara's answer is that no. Not any type of fish that a person finds he must return. Only if it had a unique cut. It was cut in a strange or interesting way. For example, we said that Rabba bar Rav Huna would cut his meat in a triangle. So that is a unique cut, and therefore if someone finds it, needs to return it. However, regular fish, plain fish, he does not need to return. And this that it says in the Brisa, chatiches dagim, that pieces of fish needs to be returned, it's also referring to interesting cuts. Like it continues, dag nashuch, only if it's a fish that has a bite mark in it, or an interesting cut, then needs to be returned. However, regular pieces of fish that don't have interesting cut do not need to be returned. So when it says chatiches dagim, it means fish with interesting cuts. So from here we see that saying from where, if the owner says from where in the animal his meat is from, is not a good siman. And this is the end of this lesson.